Welcome to the Tournament Poker Edge podcast, brought to you by TournamentPokerEdge.com, the only podcast dedicated exclusively to poker tournament strategy. Now here's your host, Clayton Fletcher.
Hello once again, everybody, and welcome to the Tournament Poker Edge podcast, sponsored by ACR Poker, where from now through June 16th, we have our Vegas Fast Track Series with over $2 million in guaranteed prize pools. This series also has a plethora, guys, of added leaderboard prizes, including a WSOP main event package worth $18,000. My name is Clayton Fletcher, and I am in immaculate, merry, tranquil Baltimore, Maryland, where I am prepping for my uncle's wedding this weekend. Very few things could keep me out of Vegas once the World Series of Poker starts, but this uncle is like one of my all-time favorite guys, just like an all-around top bloke, if you will, and he's getting married. I'm the best man. Once that's over, I'm getting on the very first flight from Baltimore to Vegas non-stop, and I can't wait to catch up with everyone and everything out there in fabulous Las Vegas. My old pal Johnny World Hennigan grabbed bracelet number 7 already, Scott Seaver number 5, and in the $10,000 dealer's choice, both Phil Ivey and Daniel Negreanu made it to day 3, the final 11. So if you think I have any FOMO, I'm here to tell you I absolutely do. I've got major FOMO right now, guys. I just can't wait to get out to Vegas and join the fun. I want to thank you guys first and foremost for all the great feedback on last week's episode featuring our own founder and Grand Poobah and TPE head honcho, Derek Killingbird Tenbush. I really enjoy having him on. You know, it just feels like a trip back in time for me because, 20 years ago or whatever it was, I was listening to Derek and Casey and Mark and Diego every single time they put out a podcast episode. Guys, I know it hasn't really been 20 years, but it's been over a decade, and that's for sure. Also, I want to highlight that Derek is approaching his 10-year anniversary of being a streamer on Twitch later this year. So we are absolutely going to do something big for that and for him. So let's look at the hand that Derek brought. He always brings a really interesting hand with a lot to talk about, a lot of different layers. I want to look at the hand that Derek played that we discussed on last week's podcast episode using GTO Wizard. Now, if you guys aren't familiar with GTO Wizard, in my opinion, this is the top product on the market right now to help you practice and improve your game. You can find spots where you bluff too often or perhaps don't bluff often enough. You can input all of your hands that you played on ACR Poker, and it's very friendly. The program reads the hands and can let you know what patterns in your game over time constitute leaks that need to be plugged. Now, we have a special affiliate link, and that is https://gtowizard.com/p/TPE. And if you use that special affiliate link, guys, you get 24 hours unlimited access to all of the features of GTO Wizard. And after your 24-hour trial is over, if you want to purchase, and I'm pretty sure that you will, you can save 10% off your total just by using that affiliate link when you try GTO Wizard for the first time. Now let's take a look at Derek's hand from last week and hear what the Wizard has to say. We, I think, determined this was a $16.50 buy-in on ACR Poker. Derek tends to play between the $10 and $20 buy-in range. Registration was still open but ending soon, and Derek is the chip leader with 134,000, so almost 100 times the big blind. The blinds were 700, 1,400, and it what we would call a regish table, so a lot of regs, just kind of a normal, typical ACR poker table, players entering between 17 and 23%. of the pots in terms of VPIP. Just very typical HUD stats for the field. So the action folds to Derek in the hijack with the Queen 9 of clubs. So Queen 9 suited, and he's in the hijack position. He noticed that the small blind and the big blind have about 14 big blinds each, and Derek decides to open for the minimum to 2,800, and the cutoff makes the call. Everyone else folds, so we'll be heads up, out of position, versus a player with about 55 big blinds. So the flop comes 9 high, with 9,000 in the pot. The flop is 9 of hearts, 8 of spades, 4 of hearts. So 9-8-4 with 2 hearts and no clubs. Hero with Queen 9 of clubs for top pair and Queen kicker. Derek checks it, and the cutoff checks behind. Oh, by the way, pre-flop, this solver has no issue. 100% on both. So we had a pretty strong discussion, I thought, last week about how when we are out of position, we need to do a lot more checking than we would when we are in position, where we can c-bet a lot more liberally. So we need to protect our checking range in this situation. So checking, I'm sure, was fine. The solver agrees. GTO Wizard has Derek checking here about 46% of the time. Remember, guys, he's got top pair and a queen kicker and no backdoor club draw. And the rest of the time, he's supposed to bet very small, anywhere from 1/6 to 1/3 of the pot. And so in this situation, Hero went for the check, and I have no problem with that. The turn was the Queen of Spades, which gave us 2 pair. And now KB bet 3,900 into 9,000, about 40% of the pot. And I remember that on last week's episode, Derek and I debated over whether a larger sizing made more sense. I think I went for the over bet, and he just did about 40%. The solver actually bets about half the pot, 42% of the time, and does my little over bet about 20% of the time, opting for a 133% pot size bet. The 40% pot bet on the turn doesn't really happen at this stack depth. Remember, we have to play the effective stack, which is 55 big blinds. I think that bet kind of puts us in no man's land, and that's not a place we ever want to be. In the actual hand, the villain raised it to 15K, just about 4x Derek's original bet. And when villain raises us like this, it's basically a pure call with 2 pair. I mean, what else can you do? Sure, the straight got there, and of course sets are possible, but everything else we are actually beating. So then with 39K in the middle, the river came the king of diamonds, and Derek checked again. And you guys may recall last week I was suggesting perhaps a small defensive bet, a blocking bet, if you will. And the solver actually likes that about 20% of the time. But we are checking here the other 80% of the time. So Derek checked, which is the 80% play. And then villain overbet shoves for 60K into 39K. And Derek decided to fold. I remember agreeing with his decision last week. So imagine my surprise, my shock and awe, when I noticed that the solver actually has Queen 9 as a pure call. Even with that king hitting the river, even with the overbet, even with everything that's going on in the Middle East, the solver is here for it, guys. GTO Wizard says, I call 100%. Let's catch us some bluffs. So obviously I enjoy GTO Wizard a lot. I think you guys are going to like it too. Let me know what you think. Hit me up on the Discord or on Twitter at Clayton Comic. Now, you guys know I have World Series of Poker fever, so let's just continue our discussion of day 4 of last year's World Series main event. The blinds are 5K and 10K. We are in the money, about 1,000 players remaining, which tells me the average stack should be right around 600,000. And Armin Pagosian is under the gun with pocket sevens and 330,000 chips. So he's got 33 big blinds. His M is 15. So we're pretty short here. We've got pretty much like a half average stack. Our table features 4 players who have already eclipsed the 1 million chip mark. So we've got a lot of big stacks at this table, including Chris Moneymaker, Dominic Nisha, our old pal, the Frenchman, Clément Richet, who is in the big blind with 500K. So what are we supposed to do here, guys? I mean, we've got pocket sevens. It's too strong to fold. I think we just need to open and hope for the best. And that's what Bogosian does. He makes it 22,000. I think off of a stack of 33 times the big blind, it's better to just do just the little min raise. Here, you want to try to maximize your post-flop maneuverability should you happen to see a flop, which at this incredibly aggressive table is certainly far from guaranteed. But yeah, I think I would prefer just a min bet here. It's a very minor, like kind of persnickety thing, but any mistake you can make repeatedly, many hundreds of times throughout the tournament, is a mistake we should be avoiding, because all those little mistakes, as you guys know, do add up. So he makes it 22K, and then the action folds all the way around to the big blind, which is Richet, our favorite Frenchman, who makes the call, and his stack is 500K. So we are going to be the effective stack, starting the hand with 330,000 chips. Now there's 59K in the middle, and the flop comes King of Diamonds, Queen of Clubs, 8 of Spades, King, Queen, 8, Rainbow, Hero with pocket sevens, and Richet checks. And now it's up to Bogosian. I think a small bet is in order here. I think 15,000 is great. What it does, basically, if the guy doesn't have a king or a queen or a draw, he's going to fold. And because he got such a good price before the flop, there's no reason to even suspect that this board hit him or not, given his wide range of calling. So yeah, I like just preserving a lot of our remaining chip stack, which is starting to dwindle here, and also giving us a chance to win the pot with pocket sevens, essentially turning that hand into a bluff. Bogosian, instead of my 15K, he does bet. He does 24,000, which is again right in that 40% pot range. I guess Derek would approve. Richet makes the call. I don't really like this sizing. I think smaller, or maybe once in a while you can just go really big, because it is a much better flop for the raiser's range overall than it is for the caller. I mean, the caller doesn't have a flush draw. Nobody does. Certainly some straight draws available. Jack 9, 10 9, Jack 10. Definitely possible. But the key here for me is that Bogosian actually has the nuts advantage. I mean, I think pocket kings, pocket queens, and pocket eights should all be 3-betting. Maybe not the eights, but definitely the kings and the queens. And at least sometimes the eights should be 3-betting. And there was no 3-bet. So what that tells us in Bogosian's shoes is that he has all of the pocket kings, all of the pocket queens, and probably all of the pocket eights. And Richet should have none of the above. So for that reason, I think it makes a lot of sense to put in a big bet at least some of the time, although I'm certainly obviously okay with a very small bet, kind of an either or sizing, just hoping to get folds from like random suited hands like 9-4 of diamonds and the like. I guess my real point is I don't know what 24K does that 15K does not. Anyway, the turn now with 107,000 in the middle and Bogosian with 281,000 behind, the turn comes the Jack of Hearts. So our board is now King, Queen, 8, Jack, Badoogie, Hero with pocket sevens, Villain with a hand I have not yet revealed, and Richet checks. Now should you fire again as Bogosian? Well, I certainly think not. I mean, I believe it's white flag time here. A few straights got there. I don't know if I can name a single hand that should fold if we bet this turn that sevens isn't already ahead of. And because of that, betting accomplishes nothing, therefore. So just check it back, which is what Pagosian does. And now, still with 107K in the middle, the river comes the 10 of diamonds. So our final board is King, Queen, 8, Jack, 10. And Riche checks again. So any ace is the nuts. Like, what am I supposed to do with pocket sevens here? I really don't blame you if you want to make a desperate bluff attempt. I mean, certainly it's hard to call without an ace or at least a 9 for the bottom end of the straight. But I don't know. I think I like just checking it back again and hoping to beat a hand like pocket fours or something. I mean, I don't know. I really don't. This is a tough situation. We do have a lot more ace X than our opponent, but these chips are just so precious at this point. I think we've already lost enough in this hand. I'm going to check and hope that somehow my sevens are good, knowing fully well they usually will not be. Pagosian has other ideas, guys. Into the 107,000 pot, the Armenian fires 70,000. So a pretty chunky 2/3 pot bet sizing here. And Riche check raises him to 150. And then it's a very easy fold with the sevens despite the compelling pot odds. It's just never, ever not a straight. So sure enough, Riche had the straight. He had ace 10. So he actually got there already on the turn. And in my opinion, Hero lost too much with the sevens in this hand. All right, let's go to the other featured table. And this time we're going to be a 75-year-old Taiwanese man known only as Mr. Wu. Now, I'm sure that at some point on the Poker Go broadcast, Lon McCarran must have said this guy's first name, but it's been hours and hours and they just won't tell us what it is. He is officially Mr. Wu, and why not? 2 folds to Mr. Wu at this table, and he limps in with $1 million behind. He limps in for 10K with the King of Diamonds, Jack of Clubs. Now, unless you have some sophisticated and well-constructed open limping range, you are much better off opening for a raise as opposed to a limp. I'm pretty sure everyone listening to this already knows that, but wow, this is the main event, guys. This is a $10,000 buy-in tournament where the first prize is over $12 million. And we've got a 75-year-old Asian man limping in with King Jack offsuit on day 4 with 1,000 players left. It's an awful play and I hate it. Next to act in the hijack is Lucas Pochat from Argentina, and he raises to 32,000. Next up in the cutoff is the big stack at the table, Shota Nakanishi with 1.7 million, and he calls. And next to act on the button is another senior citizen, this one from the USA. First name unknown, his last name is Crabtree, and he's got ace queen offsuit. And I absolutely love cold 4-betting here, guys. I'd put in like 138,000. There's already 100K in the middle. This Crabtree only has 467,000 to start the hand. He's got ace queen and he's got some loose action on his right. I like raising it up here and then flopping an ace or a queen and trying to see if we can get all in. That might sound crazy to some of you, 47 big blinds this late in the main event. But look, I would actually rather fold than call, because when we call, we've got to try to beat all these guys. We have to flop so well to beat everybody who's already in this pot. I want to try to thin out the field, maybe take it down pre-flop, but at least get heads up with one of these loose opponents. Heads up in position in an inflated pot with a superior hand is a recipe for success. Shout out to the Assassinato. Now, sitting here with ace queen, I don't want to play a 5-6 way pot. Ace queen is a hand that does not do particularly well in multi-way pots. Maybe suited, but this one's offsuit, so I think folding is actually better than calling. However, as I'm sure you figured out by now, Mr. Crabtree makes the call with ace queen. And the blinds fold, so it's back on Mr. Wu, who obviously puts 22,000 more into the middle. And now, with all these players in the pot and 153,000 tournament units in the middle, the flop comes 9 of hearts, 8 of spades, 4 of clubs. 9-8 for Rainbow Hero with the king of diamonds, jack of clubs, and everybody checks. Now, I've only told you what 2 of these 4 players have so far, but it is actually pretty common in these big multi-way pots for the flop to check through. Still 153,000 in the middle when the turn comes, and it's the 8 of diamonds pairing the board, 9-8, 4-8, and now, first to act, Mr. Wu comes out swinging. He's got king jack, guys. He's got king jack and 3 opponents. He makes a healthy bet of 92,000 into the 153,000 pot, at which time our original raiser, Lucas Pochat, folds, and Nakanishi makes the call, and Crabtree throws away his ace-queen. By the way, guys, Pochat, the original raiser, had king-queen offsuit. So those are the kind of hands you're going to have completely crushed when you make that cold 4-bet squeeze play I mentioned earlier. But no, Crabtree is gone, and this pot is getting big. Mr. Wu is out of position in a very, very inflated pot against the Japanese pro Nakanishi, and with 337,000 chips in the middle, the river comes the jack of diamonds. Mr. Wu finally makes a pair, and he checks it. And now Shota Nakanishi bets 235,000 chips into the 337K pot, so about 2/3 once again. And Mr. Wu, with a pair of jacks and eights with a king kicker to be exact, he starts shaking his head. Look, what do you think, guys? Would you even think about folding? I don't know. It just seems to me that we bluff 3 opponents with pure air on the turn and then make a pair on the river. I think it's time to go for it. I don't know. This is very strange, but he actually tanks for quite a while, and he keeps telling his opponent, I think you have an 8. So he's clearly worried that Nakanishi has him beat. This is why we love the main event. I just feel like this is a snap call. I mean, if you don't want to turn King Jack into a bluff catcher, then don't check it. Just bet the river, Mr. Wu, then you don't have these problems. You've under-repped your hand, and if your opponent has an 8, it's just not your day. Anyway, you started the hand with over $1 million in chips, so you're going to be fine either way. It's time to put the money in. He tanks forever, and even says like a dejected, okay, which is usually the sign that someone's going to fold, like, okay, you got it. But then somehow, at the witching hour, he finds the call, and I can now reveal that Nakanishi had pocket 6s, and Mr. Wu scoops this huge pot right before the dinner break on day 4. Well, that'll do it for this episode, guys. If you're not yet playing on ACR Poker, I have a deal for you. Click the link in the description of this podcast and sign up, and you can receive a 100% first-time deposit bonus up to $2,000 just by clicking that link and then entering the promo code TPE. And for everyone here at Tournament Poker Edge, with special thanks as always to our very generous sponsor, ACR Poker, hoping to see some of you in fabulous Las Vegas very, very soon. I'm Clayton Fletcher. Thank you so much for listening.
I wanna hold them like they do in Texas, please. Fold them, let them hit me, raise it, baby, stay with me. Luck and intuition, play the cards with babes to start. And after she's been hooked, I'll play the one that's on her heart. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I'll get her heart, show her what I got. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I'll get her heart, show her what I got. Can't read mine, no she can't read a mile. Poker face, she's got to love nobody. Can't read mine, no she can't read a mile. roll with her, a hard pair we will be. While little gambling is fun when you're with me. I love it. Rush